Hey guys, Mr. Strunksland joining here again from my giant cutout of Wisconsin. Um, Back here it is Tuesday, March 31st, last day of March. That means tomorrow will be a new month. But it's our last day of March, and I'm here with our little message reminders and the next section of our read aloud. Just a few reminders. Make sure you take advantage of those free lunch and breakfast at the high school. It's a drive-up service. You don't need to call ahead. You might even get to see Mr. Ritchie or Mr. Narges or Mr. Green or Mrs. Schaefer. So feel free to take advantage of those free lunches. Make sure you contact me if you have any questions at all. Dojo, my extension, my school extension, or my email. I'd love to hear from you guys. So please keep in the messages. I will be calling. And then stay safe and stay home. So make sure you guys are taking care of those things. Taking a look at some ideas for today. We've got some math. Make sure you're hitting up that Prodigy. 15 minutes a day or more. That's you got to get it in. It'll really help with some of those reviewing concepts that we've already done. So take a look at that. If you're having any issues with anything, as far as like Mr. S, I forgot how to do this or this, maybe subtracting fractions or perimeter area, that kind of stuff. If you have any questions out, please let me know because I'm going to make another video, kind of like I did the division review, and I want to know which topic you want me to review. So if there's any topics you want me to do a quick review on and post a video on, please let me know. You can either send me a message in Portfolio, you can have your parents message me on Dojo, any of those things. Please let me know what you want my next review video to be in math. Also, I did post a Kahoot. It's a review on long division. So there is a review video up, so you can watch that, help you remember, get a refresher on that, and then do the Kahoot. It does have remainders, that kind of stuff. Some of you have already played. If you haven't, take advantage of that and see how you do. We've got reading. We've got, make sure you guys are doing your AR each day. I've been talking to you guys. Sounds like you've been reading. That's really important. You can take a look at Spelling City if you want. So there is a Kahoot still up from the early Wisconsin Explorers. If you haven't done that one, make sure you do. See how you do, and remember, see if you can get a refresher on that kind of stuff. Take a look at your writing IXL and do a couple of those. Just a few minutes on that would be good. And then PE, Mr. Buckley put up a brand new post, and so take a look at that. Check that out. It's going to be a nice HIIT workout. It's right there. So take a look at those. It's under the social studies PE class, but Mr. Buckley put a post in there, so you should check that out. So now on to our Shredderman. Okay, if we remember, we ended up with Nolan a little worried that mom and dad are going to find out that Shredderman.com was registered to them. Because after all, it was his mom that paid for the website. So he's a little nervous about this. So chapter 13, Dirty Disguise. Shredderman.com wasn't actually registered to my mom and dad. It was registered to Shredderman. But Shredderman had used Eve Bird's credit card number. And even though I'd taken all the privacy options, I didn't know how much information a reporter, like my dad, or a police friend, like Sarge, could dig up. If Shredderman was going to catch the tagger, I had to act fast. The first part of my plan had backfired. And now that a lot of people thought Shredderman was the tagger, I didn't have much to lose. But to pull off the rest of my plan, I was going to need a bionic hearing and X-ray vision and invisibility cloak. Or I was going to have to ditch school. Ditch school. I never even had such a thought. But boy, oh boy, I was thinking it now. It was the only way. I had to do it before morning, though. A lot. First step, write an email. One that I'd send to only one address. bixby@bignet.com. I couldn't send it to everyone. That would blow everything. And since I didn't know the tagger's email address, the next best thing was Bubba's. He would tell the tagger. He had to. I got to work on the message. It had to be right, so I wrote it. And rewrote it. and rewrote it again. And when I was all done, I sat back and read it. The Tiger's not cool. He's not sly. He's not funny. He's not smart. What he is a coward, totally chicken. If he wasn't chicken, he'd do something real, something dangerous. Anyone can take the side of a building. Big deal. Anyone can spray the inside of a kiddie slide. Whoop-dee-doo. But there's something the Tiger would never spray. Ivana Voss's car. Why? Because that would take guts. Bark, 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 Tiger. You're lame. Would the Tiger take this bait? If it was Ryan, would he really spray paint his own mother's car? He'd know it was a trap, but with Bubba and his friends teasing him about the challenge, he'd be pressured to put into it. At least that's what I was counting on. I saved the email into my draft folder. I couldn't send it yet. Timing was everything. Then I did my homework and went to bed. And even though it was late, I wasn't sleepy. Not one bit. I just lay there in bed, running my plan through my head over and over again. When I was sure Mom and Dad were finally asleep, I got up. I pulled the dark sweatpants over my pajamas. I put my safety scissors into a sweatshirt pocket and wiggled into my shoes. Then I did something I'd never done before. I opened my window, pulled out the screen, climbed through, and jumped. The ground was only a 4-foot drop, but for a second there I felt like I was flying. I landed like a real superhero, too. Feet steady, hands out. Oh, yeah. I sculled around the street. Looking all around, I was smooth. I was quick. The street lights were bright. I didn't think anyone saw me. I was in sneak mode. Instead of using the sidewalk, I went down to the soccer field. Then I crept up to the teacher's parking lot through the bushes. Not a car anywhere. But, aha! The yard waste bags were still piled up by the office. I swooped down on them without a sound. Lots of them were heavy with grass clippings, but I found one that was full of big dry leaves that was light. Voom! I threw it over my shoulder. Tip, 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 tip. I tiptoed across the parking lot. The bag was full, but carrying it was easy. I felt like some sort of super Santa. I moved into the bushes. I untied the bag's drawstrings and emptied half the leaves. I had to make room for me. A totally empty sack would be easier, and for sure more comfortable. But I wasn't doing this for ease or comfort. I was doing this to catch a villain. Plus, a boy in a sack does not look like yard waste. It looks like a boy in a sack. When I was done dumping leaves, I started cutting flaps. Flaps that hinged on top. 2 on the bottom for the legs, 2 on the side for arms, 1 on the front for the face, and inside a face flap, another little 3-inch flap for my right eye, my camera eye. Then I hauled my trash sack disguise back up the hill. I lost a few leaves out of the flaps along the way, but not too bad. I hid the sack behind the other yard waste sacks and looked all around. Had anyone seen me? No. The whole block looked deserted. I crouched by the sacks for a minute to be sure. It felt weird being at school alone, in the dark. I felt like I'd beamed up to a distant planet in the galaxy. Only there was my house right across the street. When I left the sack and ran for home, I felt like I was running under negative G's. I was weightless. Across the parking lot, across the street, I was flying. Gravity started working again, and I tried to get back to the window. Boy, it took me forever. When I finally got inside, I put my screen back in, set my alarm, and hit the hay. Idiom. My brain was zooming with doubts. Timing was everything. But how long should I wait? I couldn't send the email too soon. Ryan would have the chance to take his mother's car in his own driveway. But what if Bubba didn't check his computer before school? What if he didn't tell Ryan in time? I'd be ditching school for nothing. But the more I thought about it, the more I convinced myself my plan would work. I'd gotten the same email action with my Tager Alert email. And they were probably now on red alert. Plus, Ryan would be more of a big shot to his friends if he tagged his mother's car at school. And it would be easier to cover his tracks. There'd be hundreds of kids to question, lots of suspects. But was I really going to ditch school? Was I really going to hide in a trash sack? Was I really going to... When my alarm buzzed in the morning, I felt like I hadn't slept a wink, but there was no time to snooze. I jumped out of bed, I booted up my computer, I read the email over one last time. Then I clicked on send and crossed my fingers that my plan wouldn't backfire again. Chapter 14, Trash Sack Hero. The minute the message was gone, my heart started pumping. There was no going back now. I was either going to be a hero or in some hot water. I'm talking 100 degrees Celsius, 212 Fahrenheit, boiling hot. I dove back into bed. Too late to worry about that now. I had work to do. Next step, act sick so my mom would believe me later when I told her I had come home sick from school. I started coughing. Not too hard, not too soft. I waited a minute. Nobody came. I tried a little louder and moaned a little for good measure. Nobody came. So I went again, louder. This time there was a tap on my door. Honey, my mom said, sticking her head inside. Are you okay? I sat up and nodded. Then I held my head like it hurt. Are you sure? She sat next to me and felt my forehead. I nodded again, but moved my eyes from one side to the other, like Dad always does when he's checking to see if he's got the flu. Then I coughed some more. Mom hurried out of the room and was back a minute later with an ear scope thermometer. She pulled it out over the top of my ear and jabbed the thermometer deep down the canal. Perfect 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius. She jabbed me in my other ear. Same thing. I'm fine, Mom. If you're not, I can arrange to work from home today. Uh-oh. I was laying it on too thick. I'm okay, really. I burned the toast for breakfast just to prove it. After I'd cleared the dishes, I went down to my room and put on my army pants. I stashed my digital camera and the safety scissors in one of the cargo pockets. Then I headed back to the kitchen to load up my other pockets. Juice boxes, check. Granola bars, check. Big straws, check. Pack of gum, check. Rubber bands, check. Dad had left at work for early, so I called, "Bye, Mom," and headed out the door. She blocked my way, saying, "All right, this is proof something's wrong." Huh? She crossed her arms and looked at me up and down. "What's going on with you, Nolan?" Huh? I said again. I tried hard not to look down at my cargo pockets. They were bulging way out. They were leaking. She squinted at me. "You hate that shirt." I looked from one arm to the other. I did hate it. It was long-sleeved and muddy green, and had a pointy collar and an itchy tag, but it was perfect for what I had to do. She squinted harder. "And it really does not go with those pants, which I know I hate." "Mom, I love these pants. They're cool." Her face crinkled. "Cool? Nolan, have you ever looked at yourself?" "Mom, first you complain that you won't wear this shirt. Now you're complaining that I am? Please, can I just go to school?" She shook her head, but finally sighed and said, "Go." But then she noticed the clock. Wait, what am I saying? It's way too early for you to go to school. I know. I promised Mr. Green I'd help him with a project before school. She waved her hand through the air. "Okay, go." I started trucking for the door, but before I reached it, she cried, "Wait!" again. I whipped around. "What, Mom?" Wow, I sounded mean, but I was running out of time. She raised an eyebrow. "Your backpack?" she said, watching me carefully. "Don't you want your backpack?" Oh, all right. I strapped it on while she felt my forehead and muttered something about my erratic behavior. When I finally got away from her, I ditched the backpack in some bushes near the garage and zoomed across the street. There are already cars in the parking lot, including a fancy silver one with spoked wheels. Dr. Voss's. I hid in the bushes in my muddy green itchy tag shirt and army pants. When the coast was clear, I zoomed across the parking lot. I ducked behind the stack of yard waste sacks, and I was starting to open my disguise sack when a yellow Volkswagen drove into the parking lot. I waited. Mrs. Bernhardt got out. Then a black SUV drove into the lot. Drat! I waited. Mrs. Sims climbed out. Hi, Peggy. Good morning, Lisa, they called to each other. Then they just stood there, yakking away. Double drat. How long were they going to stand around talking? I couldn't wait forever. I stayed low and untied my yard waste sack, and I stuck my right foot inside and through the bottom flap. I pushed my left foot in. My heart was racing like crazy. My eyes were boinging out of the sack to the yacky teachers. I wiggled my body through the leaves and pulled the sack up around me. No going back now. Then the green machine turned into the parking lot, its motor making a real cool bop, 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 bop sound. Dumb baby was still all over the dolphins, and it looked worse than ever. Stupid Tigger. The van backfired a little, and Mr. Green turned off the motor. I noticed that Mrs. Bernhardt and Miss Sims pull faces at each other before they hurried away. Just like the popular kids do when they see me coming. Wow, I thought. They're acting like they don't like Mr. Green. How could anyone not like Mr. Green? He was nice, smart, and funny. Mr. Green was cool. I wanted to say psst and wave him over, but I didn't. Another car was coming into the parking lot. And besides, I didn't have time to talk to my sidekick. I had to hide. I stayed on my knees, and I got all the way inside the sack. Stuck my arms out. I pulled the drawstrings tight over my head and tied them. I pulled my arms back in and held real still. Nobody came and said, "Hey, what you doing?" So after a minute, I started to feel safe. I'd done it. I was completely disguised. And boy, was my disguise dark and stuffy. I pulled the face flap and took a few deep breaths while I looked around. More cars were coming in. I had to get going. I dug up the pack of gum and put 2 pieces in my mouth, chewing like crazy. When the gum was soft, I pinched the part of the flap of it and used it to hold open the flap. Then I cut the straws in half, looped them together with a rubber band. I stuck one in my mouth and the other out the flap. I breathed in. Fresh air. My very own trash sack snorkel. Okay. I could see. I could breathe. It was time to get my camera ready. There was enough light coming through the eye flap for me to see what I was doing. And once I had my camera ready, I stood halfway up and tiptoed around the other yard waste sacks. He. I felt like I was Bugs Bunny cartoon. I got close to Dr. Voss's car as I could. Then I squatted so my feet didn't show, and I waited. More cars came in. The buses drove up and dropped kids off in front of the school. Pretty soon there were people everywhere, walking all around me. One kid even jumped over me. I could see everyone, but no one noticed me. It was the perfect disguise. Then the tardy bell rang, and after a few minutes it was quiet. Completely quiet. I stayed as still as I could for as long as I could, but my legs were stiff from squatting, so finally I had to shift around and sit down. Then I waited some more. The tag on my shirt was itchy, and the leaves were poking me everywhere, making it even itchier. And it was getting hard to keep my lips tight around my snorkel. And what was that smell? The warmer it got, the stronger it got in here. Was there dog poop somewhere in these leaves? I tried to forget about it, but thinking I was stuck in a sack with dog poop was grossing me out. Then the sun started beating down on my sack, and pretty soon I felt like I was cooking inside it. I was sweating, I was itchy, and the smell was getting worse and worse. I pulled in my snorkel and drank it juice. What kind of stupid idea was this? What kind of superhero hides in a poopy trash sack, sucking down juice boxes? I needed air. Lots of air. I was about to break down and tack the whole face flap open with a piece of gum when I heard a sound. Was it footsteps? Yes, quick footsteps, sneaky footsteps, coming from behind me. I held my breath. The footsteps got closer and closer and closer. Then they stopped right behind me. Something bumped me hard, and for a minute I thought I was busted. But there he was, crawling around me, heading straight for Dr. Voss's car. The Tagger. I put my camera up and zoomed in on him. He checked over both shoulders. He sneaked open the back door. He pulled out a spray can. And then he did it. Ryan Voss sprayed a dumb baby face on his own mother's car. There we are. Chapter 15 is up, and away. So listen tomorrow, and I'll read some more of that. I hope you guys are liking it. It's getting exciting. We'll find out what happens next. So tune in tomorrow, and we'll take a look at that. Reminder, if you have any questions on math, let me know. Send me a message, and I'll try to make another video on reviews. And hopefully everything else is going okay. I'd love to hear from you guys, so send me a message on Dojo or on the portfolio side so I can hear what you guys are up to. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Talk to you later.